Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop. What's wrong with the new set, Across the Timeways? In short, once again we've received an outstanding card set that embodies classic design principles. Exactly what we've always loved about Hearthstone.
Moreover, this is already the 4th expansion in a row that gives a distinct feeling that the team is trying to return to its roots.
But lately, I've been sensing a huge gap between what we see on paper and what actually defines the meta. The return to traditional design principles isn't reflected in gameplay. At first glance, the new cards look balanced or even weak, which makes us think that the design philosophy is evolving. Yet at the same time, the game environment enables these cards to fit into explosive combos, while their traditional uses are completely unviable.
Because of this, we can't help but feel like we're being misled. The developers create the illusion of radical change, but in practice, we end up with the same toxic gameplay as before. In this video, we want to take a critical look at the core new mechanics and evaluate their potential based on lessons from the past.
But before we begin, we have an announcement. Due to renewed Russian attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, our technical capabilities have become limited, and we had to cancel the release of several planned videos.
The next video will be very important for us because it will feature our traditional study of audience activity. This time, it's especially significant. Players have been saying that the Lost City of Ngoro phase was the most disappointing one, and we're interested in finding out whether that dissatisfaction affected their progression speed along the rewards track. We've been conducting this kind of research for 5 years, and we'd really hate to lose that data.
We'll also share important information about the new expansion, along with a collection of community reactions to the new legendary cards. So please, don't miss the next video. Subscribe to the channel and make sure your notification bell is active. Thank you.
Let's start our discussion with the signature feature of this expansion, the new keyword rewind. This mechanic is a direct upgrade to traditional random generation effects.
Essentially, after a random outcome is generated, the player can either keep the result via a special menu or rewind time and cancel the card's play entirely. In other words, you get to re-roll the outcome, like throwing the dice again. The most fascinating part is that your second attempt might actually yield a worse result, which makes the mechanic inherently risky. It's a brilliant concept that perfectly fits both the theme of the expansion and the game's overall identity. Considering the general power creep over the past 11 years, random generation effects have become too weak, and this is an excellent way to make them stronger and more engaging.
But there's a downside. The main problem is that Rewind still feels much weaker than Discover, which provides a predictable choice among 3 options with no risks attached. In addition to Rewind cards, the new set also introduces a new batch of Discover cards, though not as many as usual.
It's even stranger to see Rewind announced so soon after the recent upgrade to the Discover mechanic earlier this year. The keyword Art Gift doesn't just grant cards via Discover, it also empowers them with additional bonuses.
Despite that, out of the entire broad pool of Dark Gift cards, only one truly proved popular, Creature of Madness. Its effect allows you to maintain tempo and drop a strong minion on turn 3, specifically because of the Dark Gift boost. Its average popularity has been around 11% since release. Nightmare Fuel and Lord Xavius are also widely played, but not because of Dark Gift itself, rather because they can discover cards directly from the deck. This perfectly illustrates the cynical logic behind the design team's choices. In order to make new mechanics at least somewhat viable, they tie them to either extremely high-value effects or powerful gameplay tools, things you simply can't ignore. But most likely, the developers never intended to make these mechanics truly competitive in their own right. The rest of the Dark Gift cards see some use too, but their average meta impact hovers around 1%, occupying very narrow niches. Even the Dark Gift Warlock, despite its wide synergy options and a strong finisher, couldn't maintain a notable presence within its class.
Thus, while Rewind is exciting and important for the evolution of random effects, it doesn't fit well into the rigid current meta, which already has countless Discover tools capable of generating cards from the deck. Given the current state of the game, for Rewind to become viable, it would either need to generate absurd levels of value, which clashes with classic design principles, or become part of a powerful combo synergy, which again contradicts those very same traditional principles.
A more significant feature of the new expansion is the Fabled keyword, exclusive to legendary cards. When you add a Fabled card to your deck, 2 additional cards are automatically included, usually forming a tightly connected synergy with the main one.
For example, Lo Gosh is a blood fighter and adds 2 more cards of the same type to your deck. Each blood fighter, upon dying, summons another blood fighter from your hand and gives it a buff. Lo Gosh has charge, meaning it embodies the turnaround mechanic once represented by the Titans. You eliminate your opponent's threat while simultaneously creating your own. The trick, however, is that you need to have another blood fighter in hand for the effect to trigger. This means your benefit is situational and far from guaranteed. Often, you won't be able to execute the combo at all, since there are only 3 cards in the deck that activate each other's bonus effects, and by modern standards, each of them is extremely weak on its own. I actually love this type of design. Situational mechanics and the challenge of maximizing value are great balancing factors for powerful effects. It's a clever concept, but it raises a serious question. How can something like this function in 2025's meta?
The idea of building around a trio of synergistic cards isn't new to Hearthstone. Many decks have explored similar setups. Take Leech Death Knight, for instance. The combination of Exarch Maladar, Ysera and Stitched Giant is just one possible example within the deck, creating an extremely strong mid-game play. How often can you pull off that combo? Very rarely, since it's hard to find all the necessary pieces by turn 6 and meet the conditions. But that's not really a problem, because each of those cards can still serve alternative purposes at any point during the game, giving them a flexibility that blood fighters lack. Honestly, I can't understand how developers create similar synergies with such different power levels. Given all this, the chances that the blood fighter synergy will be viable in its traditional form are extremely low. It only has potential in an environment that allows you to abuse its effects. If you somehow manage to fill your hand with many blood fighters, it could become powerful, but that's a big if.
Speaking of balance oddities, we can't ignore the new Paladin card Gelbin of Tomorrow. It's a fascinating design, and its appeal lies precisely in how inconvenient it is to use. Gelbin activates auras directly from your deck, but to gain maximum benefit, you have to remove the associated legendary auras by shuffling them back into your deck.
It's an interesting concept, but I can't help comparing it to Ursal. This wild god is far more flexible, consistent, and user-friendly. All you need to activate its effect is to pair it with the spell Renewing Flames. In that case, the outcome is significantly stronger. You get a creature with impressive stats, restore your hero's health, and can eliminate 1 enemy minion, or under certain conditions, even 2, or deal direct damage to the opponent's hero. This isn't just a turnaround mechanic, it's an example of extremely toxic interaction. And you know what? Even that incredibly powerful combo has nearly fallen out of relevance in recent months, though early in the year, it was everywhere, suffocating the meta. The only real advantage Gelbin has is that it can trigger other auras in your deck as well. But at the moment, we only have Crusader Aura, the one aura that has proven its usefulness across several Paladin archetypes. Could this hint at the birth of a new aura Paladin archetype? Possibly. But can it become a viable alternative to Murloc Paladin? I have serious doubts.
Ranger General Sylvanas also relies heavily on support cards. The first activation of any card in her trio produces a weak effect but empowers subsequent ones. In the case of the new Sylvanas, you can trigger a consecration-like effect once, twice, or even 3 times, or instead, prioritize triggering discover effects or minion buffs within your deck. But that's all theory. The chance of drawing all 3 related cards early enough to choose your preferred activation path is almost 0. Even activating the second empowered effect is far from guaranteed, as it can take too long. Casting 3 consecrations in a row for just 3 mana is an insane effect. A clear example of a turnaround mechanic. A potential full board clear, direct damage to the opponent, and the creation of your own threat. The difficulty of reaching that maximum value makes for excellent balance. It's a great example of thoughtful design. All this leads me to think that in traditional use, the card may end up being useless. But players will inevitably look for unconventional ways to exploit such an explosive effect through tight combo synergies. Whether that approach will be viable in today's meta, however, remains a big question.
Priest received the most disgusting card in the entire expansion. The synergy around Meta of the Hallowed closely resembles the Blood Fighter's mechanic. To get maximum value, you need to assemble all the Fabled components in your hand and then play them together on turn 10, since each piece reduces the cost of another.
But unlike Lo Gosh, Medivh the Hallowed is a fully self-sufficient card that works perfectly even without its supporting elements. Essentially, it's a reincarnation of Sargeras, a return of the most powerful turnaround mechanic, wiping away your opponent's entire board advantage while simultaneously creating your own threat. I hate this kind of mechanic, but I have to admit that the game has moved away from the insane power levels of the Titans era. Looking at these two cards, I'm once again convinced that despite its success, the Titans expansion was, frankly, atrocious. Fortunately, Medivh costs more, is less flexible, and even the ability to occasionally summon Adiesh doesn't compare to Sargeras's guaranteed infinite portal of demons. At the same time, Medivh is potentially much stronger than the amazing Reno, introduced in early 2020. His advantage lies in the situational ability to extract tremendous value on turn 10 and significantly boost your game plan through a weapon with a Valen-like effect. In the end, we get a truly vile card capable of completely ruining the strategy of slower decks.
Muradin serves merely as a technical tool for a much stronger card. High King's Hammer can grow increasingly powerful each time it's shuffled back into your deck. Muradin's only purpose is to draw this Windfury weapon. The first use isn't frightening, it's actually a weak 6 mana play by modern standards. But the second time you use it, it can deal 20 damage over 2 turns, and the third time, 28 damage. Everything about it is linear. Just find the card and use it. However, since it gets shuffled back, the value is delayed, meaning there's no guarantee you'll get to use the upgraded version at all. Still, such an absurdly strong weapon naturally attracts players searching for ways to abuse it. Overall, the potential for abuse is a defining characteristic of this set, something clearly reflected in the design of Lady Ashara. She adds 2 locations to your deck. Her battle cry upgrades one and destroys the other. On the one hand, this fits the set's design philosophy perfectly. Ashara herself does nothing if you can't draw one of the locations. Once you do, upgrading it lets you either generate temporary spells with doubled effects or create copies of minions with doubled stats.
Generating spells will usually yield much higher value, but duplicating minions can play a crucial role in decks designed to abuse minion-based effects, which perfectly aligns with the modern meta's philosophy.
Talanji of the Graves presents a fascinating but ultimately weak game plan. You enhance Bonsamdi with supporting cards and can even resurrect him. Once again, the execution depends heavily on time and luck. You'll need to draw the right pieces during the mid-game. And even if you succeed, the payoff doesn't really qualify as a win condition unless you find a way to abuse Bonsamdi's self-resurrecting effect. It's worth remembering that Death Knight already has a self-reviving minion, a quest reward that triggers automatically. That self-resurrection is linear, effortless. And you know what? Even that doesn't see play. In general, all the cards discussed above are not strictly one-dimensional and can theoretically fit into various strategies. But not all Fabled cards are that flexible, some can actually define entirely new archetypes. For instance, Broxiger is a phenomenal finisher with one of the deadliest effects in the game. To obtain him, however, you must complete a quest like Chain. At the start of the match, a portal is shuffled into your deck. You must find and activate it to summon a minion for your opponent. Defeating that minion shuffles another portal into your deck. In total, you must locate and clear 4 such portals, each time killing the summoned minion, which grows stronger with every round, to earn the final reward. At least 2 of these portals can be found using a special weapon, but locating the remaining ones will require luck. On top of that, you must steadily reduce your opponent's health or find additional tools to exploit Broxiger's power.
Once again, the outcome is not guaranteed. You need to draw the weapon early to increase your odds of completing the quest. Taken together, it's a challenging and intricate process, but that's where its beauty and fun lie. Players must find ways to meet the quest condition as efficiently as possible, while the OTK reward remains balanced by numerous constraints that prevent it from becoming outright toxic. I absolutely love this design approach. However, if players fail to find an effective way to exploit the mechanics, the deck will simply be too slow to survive in the current meta. Do you remember the original version of Quest Warlock? Its condition required playing 6 temporary cards, and the final reward cost 5 mana instead of 3. Those original requirements delayed quest completion significantly. Players needed exceptional luck to finish it by turn 5, let alone activate the reward. After the conditions were eased, completion became almost effortless by turn 4, and under certain circumstances, even the reward could trigger as early as turn 4. In such situations, the opponent had no choice but to concede.
In my opinion, by reducing the complexity of execution, a once brilliant archetype has turned into an extremely toxic deck, and that's unfortunate. Now tell me, how does the new Demon Hunter strategy conceptually coexist with the current Quest Warlock, while Demon Hunter is busy digging for weapons to pull portals from the deck? Warlock will have already completed its entire game plan.
The same goes for Mage. Azure Queen Syndragosa lays the foundation for a new OTK archetype. The card is essentially a mana cheat, reducing the cost of arcane spells by 2. Meanwhile, Azure King Malygos doubles the effect of your arcane spells. The plan is crystal clear. Find both dragons in the mid-game, play them, then resurrect them around turn 8 or 10 to deliver a fatal burst of damage. Additionally, you can bring back other dragons, including the new Aljathar Instructor, who further amplifies your spells. But again, what are the odds of assembling and playing everything you need by turn 8, especially when your opponent is actively trying to kill you? The deck will have to compete directly with the Protoss strategy, which has already proven its efficiency in slower matchups. And the cherry on top, Rafaam. He creates a wide, cohesive synergy and delivers an incredibly fun gameplay experience. The card expands your deck by adding 9 different copies. The plan is straightforward: play 10 Rafaams to destroy your opponent. Among those generated cards are mana cheat tools, draw engines, and even powerful turnaround effects. The only issue is that playing 10 specific cards from a 30-card deck is already hard, and nearly impossible in a 40-card deck. That's the main limiting factor. On top of that, it's technically impossible to kill your opponent on turn 5 or 6, even with divine luck. Once again, assembling the required pieces and executing the plan takes time, fully in line with the expansion's philosophy. And that's fantastic. But the biggest question remains: will it be competitive in today's meta?
Finally, we come to perhaps the strangest card of all, one with a bizarre but fascinating mechanic. The Fabled Rogue Hero effectively helps other classes discover their legendary combos, and that's just wild. At the start of the match, King Lan hides in your opponent's deck. If Garona is played while Lan is in the opponent's hand, their hero loses half of their health. In turn, your opponent can remove Lan by shuffling him back into their deck for 3 mana. It's an amazing design. King Lan clogs your opponent's hand slot and threatens to cut their life total in half. Removing him is possible, but costly, forcing a choice between preventing potential damage or preserving tempo. Additionally, Garona has a tool to help find Lan, the Kingslayers, a weapon that draws legendary cards for both players. The problem is that the Fabled mechanic increases the number of legendaries in each deck, meaning the odds of pulling King Lan specifically drop dramatically. Ironically, this can end up helping your opponent find their own synergy pieces. At the same time, this weapon can also be used to dig for your own legendary cards. Either way, the design is fascinating, interactive, and undoubtedly one of the most controversial in the entire set.
To sum up, we are absolutely thrilled with the design of the new mechanics. They are ambiguous, hard to execute, situational, and that's exactly what makes these cards so captivating.
But at the same time, there's a sense of sadness, because we don't believe we'll get to truly enjoy most of these cards outside of their toxic interactions. And this is now the 4th time we've felt this way in a row. We hoped the Draenei would find their place in the meta, that the Starship mechanic would prove viable. And, to some extent, it did, though mostly through toxic gameplay and the abuse of specific modules. Then came the Wild Gods, well-balanced cards with situational value that turned out to be largely underwhelming. The same applied to imbue strategies. Then we had the quests, which mostly demonstrated limited usefulness.
The true lucky ones this time will be those who purchased the pre-order and received enough resources to enjoy the pre-release Tavern Brawl. During this event, players will be able to experience the new mechanics in their purest, most traditional form of gameplay. As for us, being free-to-play players, we won't get to fully taste these new styles of play.
Dear friends, what do you think?
Which Fabled cards have the potential to become part of the meta? And which ones do you find the most compelling in terms of design?
Let us know your thoughts below and join the polls in your community tab. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to support our content and stay updated.
Traditionally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors.
Dear friends, your help is invaluable. We will be grateful for any support.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.